Well, what is going on? Welcome, everybody. Welcome into the Overreaction Sports Podcast. I am your host, Joe Miller, and the Overreaction Sports Podcast is brought to you by the Market Dominator on the Buffalo Rumblings Podcast Network. You can find me on Twitter at Joe Miller Wired. It is always good to have you. Welcome in. Do me a favor, whatever platform you are listening on, whatever platform you are watching on, like this podcast, like this show, like this video. Also subscribe. So if you're watching me on YouTube, subscribe, please. If you're watching me on Facebook, go over to the Buffalo Rumblings Facebook page, like it, subscribe, do whatever you got to do. But it's good to have you. And whether you are a longtime listener or a first-time listener, it's good to have you. Let me just say welcome. And whether this show finds you around a cup of coffee, on the drive to work, at the gym with your AirPods in, or if you're just watching me live on the Buffalo Rumblings Vidcast Network, let me one more time say welcome. I do want to give a shout out to my guy, John Spazcheck, real quick. This show, as always, is brought to you by the Market Dominator. And some of you have asked me, and some of you have gone to, and some of you have used John Spazcheck, the Market Dominator, in the past, and I appreciate that. John is a very good friend of mine. This show is brought to you, sponsored by John Spazcheck, the Market Dominator. John is a real estate broker with Keller Williams. Keller Williams is the number one, the largest real estate firm in the world. And John is one of the best. He's in the top, I don't even know, in Western New York. He can also help you anywhere in the country. But in this market right now, I don't know if you've been paying attention. If you're getting ready to buy a house, or if you've been shopping, you have been paying attention. But also, if you are getting ready to sell your home, this one to tell you, the market is insane right now. Not only is it insane in Western New York, it's insane everywhere. Like all over the place. But whatever it is you're about to do, John is what he calls himself, and I agree with him, a life transition specialist. And he is here to help you not only buy a home or sell a home and buy a home. He's here for you to navigate you through whatever it is that you're about to go through. His team is very good. They keep not only his side on point, but he keeps the other party, so the buyer or the seller, the opposite party, on point. Regardless, all that to say this, you need to call John. Call John at 716-570-3298. That number again, 716-570-3298. You can also reach him via email, yourelitebroker@gmail.com. He is also Bill's Mafia. John is Bill's Mafia. His handle on Twitter is at yourelitebroker. Now that all the business is done, it's good to have you. Welcome into the show. It's been a minute. I've been on vacation, fam. Mafia, I've been down in Florida, and I'm going to tell you something. I'm not a big fan of Florida. Florida is not my favorite place to be in the whole world. I lived there for a long time. I graduated from high school in Florida, in Citrus County, where the manatees live. But I lived in Orlando for a year. I lived in Clearwater, Seminole, Florida for a couple of years. Just not a big fan. But we went to Florida. We're more Mexico people, me and my family, and we went to Florida just because of all this COVID stuff. And I'm going to be honest with you, we spent 10 days down there. We spent 5 days in Orlando. Then we went to Melbourne Beach, and it was much needed. And I'm not sunburnt. I know that's usually the first question I get. Are you sunburnt, Joe? You're down there at the beach. You said, no, I'm not. I know how to manage. I'm 47. I'm old. And at this point in my life, I know how to manage the sun. But it's good to be here with you guys. I'm a little, I don't know, nervous. Is nervous the right word? And I don't know if that I'm nervous because like I'm back, and it's kind of fresh and like not new, but like I feel a little bit like kind of anxious. But I might be nervous because like I've got the Godfather of the Mafia with us tonight. Like the Godfather himself is joining us in a couple of minutes, about 5. Del Reed, the man himself, the co-founder of the Buffalo fan base, Bills Mafia, and 26 Shirts, is going to be joining me. So please stick around. And after I talk to Del a little bit, we're going to take some questions. So stick around long enough. You guys are going to get a chance to ask Del questions, probably around, I don't know, 45 minutes into the show or something around that mark. But we'll see what's up. We'll see how it goes. But it's good to be back with you guys. Yesterday, just so you guys know, Saturday, I should say, I was on the Under Center podcast with Fionn, Dara, and Jake. They are an Irish NFL fan group that do podcasts from the motherland. I say the motherland because I'm Irish, and I had a blast with those guys. If you have not yet checked it out, go to @Undercenter Pod, and it's actually spelled like Canada Center, SENTRE Pod. Check it out. We had a good time talking about the Buffalo Bills. Tonight, as I told you, Del Reed from 26 Shirts is going to be here in about now 4 minutes. Wednesday, the Hump Day Hotline with me and my guy, my bestie, Jay Spence. Next week, this is what I got for you. So next week, on the Overreaction Sports Podcast. Reed Ferguson, long snapper for the Buffalo Bills, is going to join me right here on the Overreaction Podcast. We're going to be talking about primarily the podcast Reed and his brother are about to start is the reason he's coming on. I'm super duper excited about that. Anytime you can get like inside information and you can hear like actual NFL players have conversations about the NFL, especially when they're like current players, that's just fun. Complete fun. And then next Friday, night 2 of the NFL draft, the return. Are you ready? I know Richard Rush is ready. The return of the Off Tackle with John Fina show. I'll be talking draft, who the Bills took in the first round, probably the second round, maybe even the third round, if not who's coming up with John Fina. It'll be at 9:00 on Friday night next week, which I don't know the date, the 29th, I think is the date, something like that. But the draft is around the corner. And I got some stuff here. I got some content for you, but I don't know that I'm going to get to it. We'll see what I get. The Bills have a lot of needs. But, when you think about what Brandon Beane has done with this roster, it's actually pretty incredible. We're entering a draft where literally if you check mock drafts, whether it's from the NFL.com or CBS or Fox Sports, whatever, it is all over the map. Normally, when you see mock drafts, all these guys kind of line up because there's usually a big glaring hole on a football team. Generally, there's a big glaring hole on our football team. And what's funny about that is like there's not like people that are out there doing mock drafts right now are all over the board. The only place that they can really kind of land and be not concise or cohesive, but kind of like generally agree is like the Bills are going defense, right? Because when you look at what this offense did in 2020, there's probably not a lot of room for an offensive player. Now, there has been some really great conversation about the Bills taking a wide receiver from some people that I respect greatly. I could see it happening. But the reality is the Bills, if they're going to make a move, it's going to be probably for edge rusher, CB2, right? Linebacker. Clearly, we have a little bit of a need at running back. We've discussed that and hashed that out to ad nauseum. There could be some surprises in there, but when you look at just who's out there, there's the guy that Mookie loves. We talked about it a couple weeks ago on this show, Jeremiah Owusu from Notre Dame. Pro Football Talk says that he blurs the traditional lines between safety and linebacker. That should sound familiar to some of you that love the Buffalo Bills. He's aggressive at tackling while displaying excellent coverage ability. If the Broncos figure out his optimum use, I'm sorry, that's about the Broncos, but Pro Football Talk has him going to the Broncos. But what they're talking about with Owusu is that he is a linebacker safety hybrid, much like a guy that we're all very familiar with in Matt Milano and Luke Kuechly. I would not be surprised if the Bills find a way to make a move for him. That is the guy that everybody seems to be collectively falling in love with from a defensive standpoint. CBS has the Bills taking Ronnie Perkins, an edge guy from Oklahoma. Nasty player. He's a havoc wreaker. Some concerns with him. He was suspended last season. He's also a little undersized, so think kind of AJ Epinesa. And he needs to become more disciplined. It's kind of like the bead on him. There's an NFL mock out there that had the Bills moving back to 35 in a trade with the Falcons and taking also Ronnie Perkins. Lance Zierlein from the NFL Network had the Bills taking Caleb Farley, cornerback out of Virginia Tech. The problem with Lance is he needs a back procedure, and there's a little bit of a gamble in there as to whether or not he's going to be ready for preseason, for camp and preseason. If he is cleared and the Bills doctors feel like he's going to be ready to go, there's a lot of value in that pick. There's a lot of people talking about this kid opposite Trey White, and it could be nasty for the Buffalo Bills secondary, almost returning to form of what they were in 2019. And then everybody's favorite, Cynthia Freeland, had the Bills taking Christian Barrymore, defensive tackle out of Alabama, big defensive tackle. And according to Cynthia, that pairing just seems to make too much sense. But if you are reading the tea leaves, as we talked about a second ago, there's really no clue to what the Bills are going to be doing or who they might pick. I mean, there's a best guess of it's going to be defense. But Brandon Beane has built this roster so incredibly well that there's just no glare. Even the glaring holes we had 4 weeks ago, tight end, running back, he's addressed. It's been incredible. Best guess defense, but even that like I said, has been questioned lately, and it speaks to the build of this roster, how solid it is going in, how solid the roster is going into the draft. Will the Bills go out and make this defense scary? I hope so. Will they possibly surprise all of us? It wouldn't surprise me. I wouldn't put it past them. We've seen them do that type of thing in the past. But what I want to do right now, the man, the myth, the legend, there is no introduction. Obviously, when we're talking about, people that carry, what is the word I'm looking for? People that carry just and own it. You watch them every time it seems like there's an NFL or a sports, a sports network ad or spot on the Buffalo Bills and Bills Mafia. It's his face and his voice that we hear. Del Reed, co-founder of the Bills fan base, aka Bills Mafia. He's actually walked away from his computer, so I'm going to give him a second to get back to it. Founder of 26 Shirts. He's an all-around awesome dude, and he's a man of the city. He's one of us, everyone's favorite Bills fan. Ladies and gentlemen, without further ado, Del Reed. Del, how you doing tonight?
Hey, what's up, man? Thanks for having me on.
Was that intro good enough?
It was a little overboard, but I'll take it. It's fine.
We had a good chat before we came on live, just about people calling you the Godfather and stuff like that. And I kind of put it back to like the movie Old School, where Luke Wilson's character, and I can't remember his name in the show, but he was like, "Why do you guys keep calling me that?" And you very much carry that vibe. Like everybody looks at you as just this incredible. You just do such a great job of representing us. Can I say that? Am I allowed to say that you do a great job of representing me as Bills Mafia? Like, I'm okay with it. Does that make sense?
That's a huge compliment, and not take it lightly. So thank you. I try, but just another fan like anybody else.
Yeah, you are. You're just another fan, but you are a representation of who we are. But do me a favor real quick. So let's talk about, before we get to Bill stuff, let's talk about 26 Shirts and the mission. Dive a little bit deeper than what we all know just on Twitter about the t-shirts. And like, we know that you help, right? People that need, but talk to me about, how did it get birthed? Like, where did it start from? Like, what was the motivation?
Yeah. So when Bills Mafia took off, I found myself with this large social media audience that just continued to grow and grow, and it was kind of crazy. And I always make the joke that I've seen too many Spider-Man movies, or I've read too many Spider-Man comics, where Uncle Ben tells Peter that with great power comes great responsibility. And so I always translated that in this case to with a big audience comes a big responsibility. And I could make fun of the Patriots cheating and, whatever, and I still do that. But like, I always felt like, there was an opportunity to do something, with all these people that for some reason care about what I'm putting on their timeline. So,
right.
I saw an opportunity to do something positive with all of this, my opinion, unwarranted attention I was getting. So, when Bills Mafia took off, we were selling t-shirts, we were trying different things. And, my co-founders, Leslie and Bree, we've always been on the same page in terms of like, we're not trying to take advantage of our fellow fans. We're not trying to make a name for ourselves. Like, let's do something positive with this. So at the time I worked at Roswell Park Cancer Hospital here in Buffalo, for those that don't know. And we decided that, any Bills Mafia, merch or whatever, any events we would do, it would benefit, the kids, the pediatric cancer work that was being done at Roswell. And then after a couple of years, I really felt like there was more that we could be doing. And I've always been a t-shirt honk. Ironically, I'm not wearing a t-shirt like right now on your show. This is like the one time, dude. It's because you caught me on a Sunday or something. I'm always wearing. I think, yeah, I got a Star Wars shirt on over here, but like I've always got a t-shirt on, so I'm a huge t-shirt nerd.
Except on Sundays,
right? Yeah, exactly. Well, yeah, even normally on Sundays. It's just this one's kind of weird, but anyway, so like that's my go-to. Like whenever something happened, I'm like, I don't know, let's make a t-shirt about it.
Right.
And so, real quick, just so I'm not going on forever here, but like in October of 2013, someone reached out to me on Twitter, said, "Hey, can you follow me? I want to DM you a question." So I'm all right, I follow him, and he goes on to he says, "Hey, I'm raffling off this jersey, an autographed Mario Williams jersey, which nobody cares about now, but in 2013 that was really cool, an
Big deal.
autographed
Yeah.
Mario Williams jersey, and he had won it from Summer Sanders,
Oh, wow.
and I remember seeing her a few months earlier. She was doing a giveaway for this jersey. He won it, and he wanted to raffle it off. And I'm looking at his profile. Well, he's a Bills fan, so and I'm not really Mr. Memorabilia guy, but if I won an autographed Bills jersey from a gold medal Olympian who's a Bills fan, there's a little bit of cachet there. Like I may not be so quick to let that just pass through my hands, right?
And a star of a Nickelodeon TV show that we all watched, right? I mean,
right, exactly. Figure it out, right? That was the
right.
show. So he wins this jersey, and his first inkling is to raffle it off for money. And so I'm like, all right, dude, what's your story here? Why do you want to unload this so quickly? Because obviously you're a Bills fan. So he goes on to tell me about how his daughter was 2 years old at the time, and she had a condition called retinoblastoma, which is basically like eye cancer. And she had already had one eye removed, 2 years old. She'd already had one eye removed, and the other one was getting chemotherapy applied directly to the eye.
Wow.
And he lived in North Carolina. He's from like Olean, I believe. Now he's living in North Carolina, and his daughter's getting this special treatment at Sloan Kettering in New York City.
Mm-hmm.
And so not only is there cost, medical bills or co-pays or whatever, but there's also travel costs and, lodging and food. And so there's so much. It's people think that just because you have health insurance, like you might have the best health insurance. Like, dude, they don't cover your travel. They don't cover your,
right.
Your food, all the other expenses. You're going
being
on
out of work,
a trip,
being out of work. So
yeah.
leaving work. These people don't get paid while they're gone. Right.
Yeah, absolutely. That too. Right. So like you're going in two different directions at the same time. So, I'm reading Amber's story. That's his daughter's name. Scott was his name. I'm reading Scott tell me about Amber, and it's like 9 a.m. That morning before I was going into my shift at Roswell, and I'm like crying in the car reading this dude's DM. And so I replied back to him like, "Yeah, no problem, dude. I'll retweet. I'll share your raffle. No big deal."
Right. Yeah.
And so later that night, that was on a Monday now. I had like this men's group that I used to go to on Monday nights. It's like a Bible study accountability thing. I'd go to that on Monday nights, and I'm telling them about this story and how I just had this idea. Like like I said before, my go-to is always, let's sell a T-shirt. Let's do a T-shirt about it. And so I had this idea that I had been mulling over for a few months, but didn't really have any direction with it. It was just really just a thought in the back of my head about selling like, T-shirts on a regular basis that were about whatever whatever happened recently in the city or the sports teams or whatever. And so I had this idea, like I'm telling them, like, I think I could sell a different shirt every week and like give the money to a family in need. And quickly they said, yo, back up. A shirt every week, you're gonna burn yourself out.
Oh yeah.
But I said, yeah, I know, because I have a wife and two kids, and they're looking out for me. I'm looking out for them. And I said, I know, but I think I could do every 2 weeks because I really want the designs to be timely. Yeah. And my buddy Jake looks at me and he says, "Dude, that's like 26 shirts." Because I was talking about doing them over the course of a year.
Bingo.
I said, "Yeah, I know, but I think I could pull it off." So the next morning I wake up, and I kid you not, like as literally figurative as it could be, I woke up and like 26 shirts was like staring me in the face when I woke up. And so I checked. Nobody had registered that domain. Nobody had any social media handles, anything like that, for 26 shirts. And so I registered it all. And I put together my thought process originally was that it was going to run. It was kind of going to fall under the the Bills Mafia, the Buffalo fan base,
right.
Organization that we had. And so I put this up on the blog, and I always call it my Jerry Maguire moment, right? So you ever seen that movie? He puts out I forget what he calls it, his manifesto or his mission or whatever it is. He puts it out there, and he just like blurts it all out. and effectively he gets fired. Well, I didn't get fired, but like suddenly I was accountable to this idea I had, which said I'm going to sell 26 shirts over the next year. One design every 2 weeks, and you're going to buy them, and you're going to design them, and you're going to I completely crowdsourced the whole idea.
Right.
And and all of a sudden, like, dude, like the news was calling me about this idea, and like artists were reaching out, and yeah, Steve said it. Mission statement. It was a mission statement, I think is what it says in the movie. So, and so all of a sudden got all his attention. Local T-shirt company reached out and said, "Who's printing your shirts?" I'm like, "I have no idea. All I do is write a blog post. I have no idea what I'm doing." So
always the best person to start a company, the guy that doesn't know what he's doing.
I'm running the company now. I have no idea what I'm doing. I tell my employees all the time that like, hey, listen, I didn't say I was the best owner. I didn't say I was the best manager. I'm just a dude who had an idea to sell T-shirts. Right. And so, so it all came together so quickly. And I'm doing interviews with the news. I'm talking about like, oh yeah, this shirt's going out on Monday, and it's going to help this little girl Amber. I didn't have the design yet. We haven't even finished building the website. Mm-hmm. But it all came together like Sunday night. Launched it Monday, and very quickly realized that this was something that might last longer than a year. This because just the need. We were getting requests for help. We were getting so many requests for help. We were getting so many different artists were reaching out. And so fast forward a couple of years now, after it had kind of taken off a little bit, I ended up getting laid off from Roswell. And I always assure my wife, it's not because I was spending too much time doing 26 shirts, but ended up getting laid off from Roswell after my position was eliminated. And being a state employee, I could have, posted for another position that was open there. But, with my wife's backing, at that point now, almost 2 years deep, like I knew this is what I was supposed to be doing in my life.
That's good.
And with her backing, we gave it like a 1 year trial. Like let's try and do this full time for a year. And if after a year or sooner it becomes very obvious that this isn't going to work, then I'll go back to the grind. I was a web developer. I'll go back to being a web developer.
Sure.
And I should say that part of that decision was, Dan, who owns You and Who, which is the company that was producing all the shirts for 26 shirts, actually brought me on as a 50% owner when I got laid off. That was all part of that decision. So we own the business now, 50-50.
Nice.
So anyway, so we gave it a year trial, and within 6 months we had to hire somebody because I was so overwhelmed with the work, because Dan owns another business. So the idea was that I was going to handle all the operations for the most part, with 26 shirts. And, it's just continued to grow and grow and grow, and it hasn't stopped. And it's absolutely insane. I have no idea how it's all worked out like this. But that is the really long answer to your question about,
I love it, because I'm not necessarily sure that the people that are listening to this podcast or watching the show right now have heard that story. And I think what's amazing about it is however people want to describe it. I know how you and I would describe it as far as, from a faith standpoint and what we believe, stepping into our calling and what God has for us and stuff like that. And other people, just call it karma. They call it whatever they call it. But you have done such a very good job of capturing the essence of our city. Like, our city it's the city of good neighbors. It's like we give, like we're the people that shovel our neighbor's driveway when they're, when for whatever reason, whether wife just had a baby or they're out of town or they just didn't get up as early as I did. So I'm going to go snow blow their driveway too. Like, that's just who we are as a city and who we are as a family. And 26 shirts, and Dell, you've just done such a great job of capturing the essence. And it's just such a fun movement to get behind. Like, it's amazing to me how it just has taken on a life of its own. And like, it's almost a fabric of our community at this point. Like, it's tremendous. And I just appreciate just you stepping out in faith. And it's funny to me because I'm guessing when you got laid off from Roswell, you got a severance, correct? Yeah. So you want to talk about an open door. Sometimes ways get provided to us to walk through when we're faithful in the small, right? When we're faithful in the little, and then we're given much. And you said that before we even came on, or maybe you said it while we were on, that, where much power is given, there's much responsibility. It just speaks to the character of you. It speaks to just walking through it and the faith that you had to walk through it and stepping out. It's just a fantastic story. I have a weird question, and I don't know that there's an answer, because I know that now it's bigger than just you. You're obviously several years into it, almost a decade into it. You've got employees at this point. outside of buying t-shirts, is there a way that people can get involved with 26 shirts?
Yeah. Well, first and foremost, I mean, any family that we're helping that has a GoFundMe link, I always like make sure people understand this. Like, if you don't like the shirt, if you think the shirt sucks, I totally get it. That's fine. A lot of these families that we help, they have a GoFundMe link that we'll have at the bottom of the little profile where we talk about them on the website.
Right.
You can click on that and you can donate, you know, $1, $2, $100, $1,000, whatever you feel led to do to help them out. But in terms of like what anybody else can do to help outside of that, you know, directly in the family in terms of big picture stuff, like, dude, don't be afraid to like retweet or share or that's the biggest thing. Like, you know, people can't help if they don't know. And so,
awareness.
I mean, at the end of the day, even if you don't want to share like the link to the shirt, share the link to the GoFundMe that we might have linked on the webpage, because we exist to help, you know, and I truly believe that, you know, what we're doing is it's kind of like meant to be. And so, you know, we're going to get ours, like, we're going to be okay. So by all means, like, talk about the families that we're helping. That's the biggest thing. That's why we exist. We don't exist to sell t-shirts. We exist to help families. The only thing is, the only thing I'm good at is coming up with t-shirt ideas. That's it. All I'm good at. And so that's the only thing I had to offer. I wasn't even a good web developer back in the day. I'll be honest. I wasn't that great. I was okay. I wasn't great. This is the only thing I'm kind of good at. So that's the only way I know how to.
I find what you do amazingly intimidating. I'm a creative, and I mean, I'm a former recording artist. I've written songs. Like, obviously I'm doing, you know, creative content here, you know, for alternative content for the Buffalo Bills. Like, my job is creative. I lead creatives. Dude, it is daunting, like, to come up with the next thing. And when I see your design, sometimes I'm like, that's brilliant. Like, and sometimes you're so obvious, and I'm just like, why didn't I think? Like, I'm a creative dude. Like, why didn't I think of that? Like, sometimes it's just like, bang, board to the head. It's like the Masters one you just did with New York State. I was like, that's perfect. Like, that's perfect. Like, man.
Well, I mean, I can't take a lot of credit because, you know, I come up with some of the ideas, you know, but, you know, we have a creative director, you know, Josh, you know, Banksy_1 on Twitter. He comes up with, you know, just as many as I do. That was his idea, the master shirt you just mentioned. So good. He's awesome. I mean, and we have like so many, like I said, but like the outside of this show, like, I'm just a fan, dude. We have so many other fans that will email us, that will tweet at us, that will send us direct messages, just in terms of like the ideas that they have, that, you know, or even other, you know, creatives, like freelancers. The best Monday morning is when you fire up your email and there's like a fully done design concept you never even thought of, just like waiting there for you. It's like, yeah, sure, we'll use that, no problem.
Thank you, God.
Yeah. But it's just it's crazy, but it is daunting. It is a little bit, you know, because we're only as good. I always say we're only as good as the last shirt we put out.
That's exactly right.
And so it's just but it's how different is that than any other creative. You know what I mean? Any band, your favorite band, like, they're only as good as the last album they put out.
That's right.
You know,
that's right.
Half the reason I don't listen to Pearl Jam anymore is because I can't. They're past 100 albums I'm not crazy about. You know, they haven't done anything great since 1997. You know, so hopefully I'm not like a future Pearl Jam. But yeah. So it's daunting. But at the same time, like, I mean, this is all I'm doing. This is all we're doing now, is just trying to think of t-shirt designs. You know, so and like I said, we have a huge community around us that is helping us out along the way.
Super good. Super good. So real quick, briefly, before we get into Buffalo Bills talk, what's next for 26 shirts?
Everybody asks me that question. Like, I don't know, like, another shirt. I don't know. It's like, we're actually though, we're about to launch. We just moved into a new space. We've been in the Tri-Main Center pretty much the entire time we've existed. And we just moved into a new suite from the 5th floor down to the 3rd floor. It's about twice the space that we had. It's broken up into 3 sections, which is awesome.
Wow.
We have an office space, we have a shipping area, and in the middle there's a tiny little space that we're gonna have as like a retail showroom. And I call that the inverse pagoda, because that's how small it is. You go to the mall, you kind of like, you walk around the pagoda and you look what they have. This one, you kind of walk inside of it. And, you know, we have an awesome new employee that we hired at the end of December, Nicole. She was completely in charge of that. She outfit the entire space.
Wow.
We're hoping to launch that in about a month or so. Really excited about it. You know, we'll be showing off the current shirts that we have. We'll have all of our Hall of Fame stuff that we have, a lot of our Mafia stuff on display, and all the other things we offer. And we'll even have some designs that you can only get at the store,
Smart.
at the retail
Super
space.
good.
So
Super good.
just enough to bring people in, and it's not like it's nothing, big or,
I got one.
crazy, but
If you can figure out a way to design the space itself, so you like a picture of the space with an X that says "I was here."
I was here. I don't know, maybe.
And you can only get it if you get it from there. I was here, right?
I feel like that's making us feel a little too special. Like these creative people come.
You guys are special.
We're not. It's not Mecca, man. It's just like a little retail spot.
You never know.
But
you never know.
Yeah, it'll be fun. You
That's
never know.
awesome.
Exactly. So yeah, we're looking forward to launching that.
That's sweet. Ladies and gentlemen, you are watching and listening to the Overreaction Sports Podcast live on the Buffalo Rumblings Vidcast Network and Podcast Network. I'm sitting here with my man, Del Reed, and we're about to transition to some Buffalo Bills talk. We're going to talk a little bit about the Buffalo Bills, and then I am going to open it up to questions for all the people that are watching on Facebook and Twitter and YouTube and every other place. But whatever platform you're listening to us on, please like and subscribe. But the Buffalo Bills, my friend, like obviously that's the thing that unites us all. Like anytime things get crazy on social media with just infighting amongst the mafia or whatever it is that we're disagreeing about, and recently it's been about running backs and taking running back at 30. I always try to bring it back to people and remind them that we're all Bills Mafia. Like we're all family. Like at the end of the day, we're all family. But I mean, it's just been incredible what we've watched. I use the phrase wildest dreams land, like this past season for the Buffalo Bills, like for us as fans, like what Allen did, where he came from, and like the jump he took. I mean, this team is something we have waited for a very, very long time. And as faithful as we are going to games and tailgating and buying our tickets, and, maybe the stadium isn't sold out, or, it isn't packed completely out in the middle of December when the Bills are, 6-8 or 6-9, but they're still, 3/4 of the stadium is full and we're all still rocking and rolling. What does it mean to have this team? Like, what does it mean to have this team represent, our hometown? When you think of like the players and the guys that are on this team and McDermott and Bean, what does it mean to you?
What I love is that you mentioned it earlier, how Buffalo is the city of good neighbors. What I love, I mean, from an outsider's perspective, this is a tight-knit team, man. Like this team is a family. And, obviously I've been following the Bills my entire life. I don't remember, like hearing these stories that you hear come out of the locker room in terms of how these guys are truly like together as a unit, as a family. And I love that. I love, and culture is a term that gets thrown around way too often and way too loosely, but it really does feel, from this outsider's perspective, it really does feel like Sean McDermott and his staff have built a true culture in Buffalo that, players across the league want to be a part of. Not every player, some players exist strictly for, they're here to make that money and they're here to, whatever. And if they happen to win, great, but they just want to cash in. And that's fine. Everybody's entitled to how they want to go about their job. But they have truly built a culture here in Buffalo that is something that, I think most players in some way, shape, or form want to be a part of, and it's a winning culture too. Not only is it family, but it's a winning culture. It's fantastic. It's so great to see this team where it is now.
Bean had me outside of all the, clearly several of the moves that Bean made when he first got here, Kelvin Benjamin, blah, 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 weren't great. Right. But obviously you saw the changes, you saw the moves, you saw the culture shift. And I want to say that Bean had me, and I don't remember exactly what happened. It may have been whoever the Eagles wide receiver was, but when he was talking about the comments that were made about Buffalo, and he was like, that pissed me off. Like, that's not like, it just shows me that you know nothing about our city and our team and who we are. Like, I was like, he gets us. Like, and the funny thing is about, sons of Buffalo. You're a son of Buffalo. I'm a son of Buffalo. Probably 99% of the people listening to this podcast and watching the show are sons of Buffalo, sons and daughters of Buffalo. We just want people to get us. And it just seems like McDermott and Bean, they get us, right? Like they understand who we are and like what we're about. Like, it's just different. Like, I don't know. It's just, you said it well. It's just different. When was or what was your favorite? So when you look back at 2020, and you look at all the wins, 15 wins, by the way. I remind people that all the time. The Buffalo Bills won 13 regular season games in 2020, 15 games through the whole season. Holy crap. but of that,
it used to take them 2 or 3 seasons to get to 15.
Right. We're going to party like it's 1995 playoffs, right? And the 1990, what was it? One was the last time they won 13 games. What was your favorite win or moment from the 2020 season? What was the moment? What was the highlight? Like the thing that you're going to take away 5 years down the road? You're like 2020. It was that. Do you remember that? Like, what was that for you?
Taron Johnson's pick 6 against the Ravens. For me, that was it. That was my favorite moment. And there were so many other favorite moments that happened before that. The win over the Patriots on Monday Night Football. All there were so many.
There's so many.
But really, in terms of a moment, that pick 6 against the Ravens was just, as we say on Twitter, a chef's kiss. It was just
right.
It was perfect.
It was amazing.
That was my favorite.
We talked about it a lot, just on like afterwards. Like when he caught the ball, it went into traffic and he kind of vanished. And it was
like did he like take a step back too?
He was gonna kneel. He was gonna kneel. And like I remember that, and I remember even talking about it afterwards and being like I wasn't sure what happened, and like I heard the crowd roar, so I knew something happened. Like through the television, I was there. I went to the Spence and I went to the Colts game the week before. I wish I'd have been there for that one. And then all of a sudden, like he's taking off, and I'm like, and I'm yelling, like at some point I'm yelling like go down, and then I was like, oh wait, like the whole moment was just like it was there were so many incredible moments. But to your point, I mean that was just unbelievable.
And no lie, dude. As he's running, I'm yelling so loud. I literally felt something pop in my throat. like for 2 days. Like I had this rasp to my voice. I didn't care. Who cares? But it was like that was such a special moment. It was great. And there were so many moments this year. It was such a magical season. It was awesome. It was just, a couple wins short of everything we've been hoping for.
So I am a singer. I'm a vocalist and have been for over 20 years. And I have had season tickets since 1997. I'm going somewhere with this that has to do with your point about your vocal cords. And I've had season tickets since 97. I started buying it with my dad in 97 when my grandpa was too old to start going to the games. And my grandpa got the tickets, and I think 77, they were originally gotten in or bought in, I think, the 60s. They let them go in like 75, and then he bought them again in 78, 77. But I got them in 97. I go to games, and I don't yell, like because I'm trying to protect my voice. So I like my hands hurt. Like I clap as hard as I can. I high five everybody. But literally, to your point, like when that happened, I was yelling. Like that was one of the first times in 2 decades that I was literally like yelling at the television. And my daughter, my 14-year-old daughter, was like standing right next to me, and she's yelling too. Like we're all yelling, go, like the whole thing. Yeah, like I luckily did not pop anything. That's my greatest fear is like I'm yelling at a football game, and like something pops in my throat, and then I'm like screwed. I get polyps, and I'm screwed for a couple of weeks. But it was just amazing. And this kid, man, this Josh Allen kid, and I remember listening to the content creators and podcasters. I remember having conversations with Bruce Nolan, and he made one of the most profound statements on another podcast. And then I had him on mine. I had him on the Overreaction show. And he said, when we're talking about progression in Josh Allen before the 2020 season, because it was a big year, like obviously he had to make a step. We needed to see a step. Obviously, we never expected what we saw. But Bruce Nolan from the Rumblings Network said if he plateaus, that's almost regression. Like if he goes into year 3 and plateaus, like gives us the same 2020 looks like 2019. Even though it's a plateau, it's not really like a plateau. It's a regression. When did you realize Josh Allen was the one? What was your defining moment? Like what was the defining when you were like, oh, he's the one?
It's hard to say there was a moment, I think it began, and it sounds corny saying this, but I think it began when he jumped over the linebacker against the Vikings.
Yeah.
Like seriously, like, okay, that kind of like, yeah,
everybody.
Yeah, that kind of like, you're like, hold up. All right. You have my attention, rookie. And for me, I think week 2 against the Dolphins, he accounted for 4 touchdowns.
419.
It was the second game. Yep. It was the second game in a row where he was over 300 yards. He was over 400 yards in that game. Second game in a row that he was over 300 yards. And as a Bills fan, like 300 yards, like our quarterbacks don't throw for 300 yards, maybe a couple times a season.
Maybe.
For me, that second game of the 2020 season was like, all right, let's go. Let's do this. This is gonna be a special season. This is a special player. So for me, I think that was just like the confirmation. Like it's been on the radar for at that point, it's been almost 2 years. Like, all right, I think we have something here. And then just the way they came out of the gate and beat up the Jets week 1. You're like, all right, cool. And then week 2, there was a closer game with the Dolphins that came out, and he just. I mean, almost every game this season, he just like blew the doors off of the other defense. It was so great. I just such a special season, so great.
Wildest Dreams Land. I'm gonna make a T-shirt for me that just says Wildest Dreams Land, because that's literally what the season was. It was wild. You never expected Allen to do what Allen did. You never expect Stephon Diggs to do what Stephon Diggs. You never. Wildest Dreams Land. 13 wins. 2 playoff wins. It was just. Whatever your wildest dreams are, outside of winning the AFC Championship game and winning the Super Bowl, that's what we got this year. For me, it's literally the same 2 games. Like when he jumped Matt Barr, I was like, oh, like this kid wants to win football games. And we weren't sold his rookie season on his talent. And I remember spending, and I podcasted about it several times in 2019 when I first started this show. Just about the fact that I sit every time he dropped back in 2019, I would sit on the edge of the couch because I was nervous about the stupid completion percentage number. I was so overwhelmingly concerned that every time he threw, I just wanted somebody to catch it so they would stop talking about completion percentage. And then literally by week 2, that Dolphins game, he throws for 419 yards and is like, whatever it was, 4 touchdowns after putting up 300. After that, it was like, oh, this kid's good. Like I have to agree with you wholly. Like those are the 2 games for me as well. It was just incredible. Here's a fun question that I like to ask people. Have we seen his ceiling yet, or does he still have room to grow? And how good could this kid be?
I don't think we've seen the ceiling. 2019, he had such a hard time like completing those deep passes, right? I think he was completed a couple at the beginning of the year, couple at the end of the year, and the whole remainder of that middle of the year, like couldn't do it. 2020, that wasn't a problem. Nope. Couple. I don't know, man. I don't know. I think there's got to be more room for improvement. You look at these, other quarterbacks, and somehow, Rodgers got MVP. So I guess that means that Allen has to do more. And I think he's got it in him. He's young. Dude's 24 years old. I think my favorite meme I saw after the Patriots game on Monday Night Football was, when Bill Belichick was throwing his surface, on the sideline. I think that my favorite meme was it had that picture, and it says, when you realize Josh Allen is only 24 years old.
Right.
Dude has so many years ahead of him.
Right.
He has so many years ahead of him. Every year he has improved 18, 19, 20. You have to imagine 21 is going to be, it's maybe better, like crying out loud. Dude had Diggs on his team this year, and they barely even practiced before the season started, like they barely had any. I'm so excited. I'm sorry if I began the answer to your question kind of like not knowing, but yes, absolutely.
No, you're fine.
No, we have not seen the ceiling. No, there's so much room for improvement with this kid.
It's a refinement. There's a refinement coming. There's a refinement to his game. You're talking about a kid in 2020 that befuddled Robert Saleh, that befuddled Vic Fangio, that befuddled Bill Belichick put 7 defensive backs on a football field to stop Josh Allen from throwing a football. 7.
Did you ever think you would see that from? Oh, so
and
great.
Josh Allen,
Patriots defense with the Bills,
and Josh Allen lit him up. He put 7 defensive backs on the field, and Josh was like, just threw the ball all over the field. It was like, you put as many defensive backs out there as you want. I don't care. Like, it was just, yeah, I'm giddy. Like, you've got me. Can this offense be better? That's funny too, because like 19 to 20, Josh Allen plateaus. It's regression. That's the only definition there is. It's like, we're wondering, like, we're not having conversations about a re-signing. We're wondering, like, maybe this year, right now, we're like, oh, the Bills probably shouldn't pick up his 5th-year option. We need to see another year. And as much as there still is some arguments out there that the Bills probably shouldn't re-sign him yet, because he kind of had that explosive year, like a Carson Wentz year and some of those outlier years. The reality is he showed a lot. I mean, can you imagine this offense better in 2021 than it was in 2020?
The offense, yes, absolutely. The running game can definitely use some improvement there, and the tight end position as well too. those are the two main positions for the offense that I see can use some improvement. But man, it sure is great having this offense. When they scored 501 points this season, everybody was talking after the 19th season how the Chiefs scored 451 points in the season. Bills scored 501, 50 more points than the Chiefs did the season prior, which was like, oh my gosh, they scored 451 points. That said, there are areas on the offense that can improve, and that's so exciting as a fan to know that they haven't yet arrived.
Yeah, so
as a unit.
Clearly, my next question just about the Bills making it to the AFC Championship game, and that game not ending the way that we wanted. And I think we would all agree, everybody would agree, except for Chiefs fans, that was not the Buffalo Bills team that we saw all season. That was they were outplayed. They were a little bit outclassed. They were, in my opinion, they weren't prepared. You can look at what the Bills ownership has and some of the proposals that they've made to the league about assistant coaches not and offensive coordinators not or coordinators in general not being allowed to interview until after the championship game. Kind of leads you to think that there was some distraction kind of going to that game between Dable and between Leslie Frazier. However, the question is, we're not looking backwards. We shouldn't give a crap about the Patriots. We shouldn't give a crap about the Jets. Shouldn't care about the Dolphins. We're going forward. We need to be worried about the Chiefs and potentially the Bucks, but the Chiefs first. From what you've seen this season, and then we're going to move into, because people are asking, the draft. Do you feel the Bills so far this year have closed that gap on the Chiefs a little bit?
I don't know if they've closed it, but they have. It hasn't widened. It hasn't widened. They've done an excellent job keeping this team together. Which, I mean, for a lot of NFL teams, that kind of, if you can stay put when you're a good team, that's kind of like moving forward.
It is.
And not only that, when you think about it, think about this, the players, both on offense and defense, they're young. And so even if you keep this exact same unit, like now you have this unit going into 2021 that has that much more experience. Like none of these dudes ever played in an AFC Championship. None of these dudes were ever this close to a Super Bowl.
Right.
And now they're that much. I mean, Tremaine Edmonds is like, what, 23, 22? Like, they're not even like.
I think he's 13 or 14 years old. He's super young.
There's an argument to be that they're not even physically mature. And they're playing like they're playing. And so I think just in terms of staying put in a lot of ways, they're that much better. And then you look at some of the positions that they have improved upon. I'm a big fan of the Locked On Bills podcast with Joe Marino.
Joe Marino, he's my guy. Joe's my guy.
Yeah, he's great. I mean, he said something, it's gospel to me. And he mentioned after the Bills signed Emmanuel Sanders and let John Brown walk, how he was very confident this was an upgrade at the position. Yeah, John Brown's great, fast. But he went on to explain, on his podcast, I'd recommend anybody who's maybe concerned about it. I don't know who they are, but like to go back and listen to that from a couple weeks ago. He just speaks about how Emmanuel Sanders is just in terms of route running and everything else, just an improvement. So they've improved in that position.
Yep.
But just like I said, just staying put. I mean, part of the problem with the AFC Championship game was that I don't know if it was the scheme or what, but Kelsey was wide open through so much of that game. And
Edmonds was covering him. That was what was even weirder. And there were a couple times that like Mahomes was able to move Edmonds with his eyes, where like Edmonds was behind him, behind Kelsey, and Mahomes would like move his eyes, and Edmonds would like run to his left, and then like Mahomes would just dart the ball back to his right and like beat him. And it's just like, hello, like that's your guy. Stay on your guy. It's Bill Belichick, right? Just do your job. Just all we're asking you to do. And I almost wonder if there was an aspect to even some of that stuff that they were like trying out. What is this going to look like without Matt Milano? Right. And I think they were very much they realized or they were resolved to the fact that Matt was going to be gone. I don't think they ever expected Matt to take a hometown discount, which we saw many players, which speaks to the culture piece you were talking about. It never happens. Yeah. I've spent the entire year telling people players don't take hometown discounts. They want generational money that's going to like affect their grandchildren. You leave $5 million on the table. That's $5 million your grandkids don't have. Sure enough, lo and behold, Levi Wallace, Matt Milano, like you name it. These guys are like, everybody but John Brown is like, I want to stay here. Whatever I got to do, I want to stay here. So that game was just insane. I guess from a draft, go ahead. You say something?
No, I'm saying, but even not even just the players, but the coaching staff too. Like teachable moments. I'm sure a lot. I'm sure there's a lot of things they wish they had done differently in terms of field goals and touchdowns and everything. This was a learning opportunity for the entire team. Every player on that field, whether they were on the sideline or they're in between the hash marks, like it was an opportunity for them to learn, to get better. This is a young team, and there's so much future ahead of this team, of this for this franchise. 2021 is going to come around. We're going to forget all about 2020 and let's do it. I'm so ready. I'm hungry. I'm hungry. So.
Before I ask you the draft question, and I've only got one draft question for you, and I'm not a draft Nick, so there's no pressure. Like, I literally have not studied the draft. I haven't studied a bunch of the players in the draft. So even though I even started the show at the top of the show with some draft stuff, like, I'm not a big draft guy, so there's no pressure with draft. However, this is the question. I'm going to ask this question first. What needs to happen in 2021 for the season to be a success for this team? And what I mean by that is, in 2020, we knew that the Bills we had to win the East and win a playoff game. If we won the East, won a playoff game, 2020 was a success. We did both of those. We actually won 2 playoff games. So in your mind, what has to happen in 2021 for that to be a successful year for the Buffalo Bills?
Super Bowl.
Calling it now.
We
need a point. You need a point.
Yeah, right. The team has already broke. Yeah. The team has already broke the seal for the AFC Championship. We've been, the fans now. Right. We've been there. This generation, past 2 generations, whatever, didn't get to see any playoffs barely at all. We've all been to the AFC Championship game now. And us old timers. I mean, I'm 45. I've been to the Super Bowl. I want the trophy. And how many steps are there? I mean, after losing the AFC Championship, how many more steps are there after that? Josh Allen, whether it's this offseason or next offseason, he's going to sign a big contract.
Huge.
And that's going to make it very difficult. Bean has done an amazing job navigating the salary cap. He's done an amazing job navigating the salary cap this offseason. It's going to be that much more difficult when you're paying somebody whatever Josh Allen's contract is going to be, which is probably going to be like one of the
40, 42.
Yeah, it's going to eat up so much money. So this is the year. This is it. This is the best opportunity they're going to have to win a Super Bowl. I say that it sounds like so like line in the sand. Have me on here this time next year, and I'll be saying like, no. This is the year. But for real though, like this is a huge opportunity for the Bills now. You have players that are taking all these hometown discounts. You got these guys like Isaiah McKenzie who's willing to play for Candy. Like they all know that this is it. This is the season.
Shout out to Mookie.
It's to win it.
Shout out to Mookie for asking that question. So that is one of those questions that got broadcast across the world and like repeated, but nobody ever gave Mookie credit for asking the question that got him to say that. So shout out to Mookie Hawkins from WUFO Sports 1080. Draft thoughts real quick. We're gonna ask you 2 more questions, this one and then one more, and then we're gonna take questions from the people in the comments. Draft thoughts, needs, want, and this kind of goes back to what you said, the window. So are you all in on defense in this draft? What are your needs? What are your wants?
It's a good question. So the 4 positions I think that the Bills can really use, there's an opportunity for improvement on. Cornerback, defensive end, tight end, running back. Those are the 4. And Pat Moran and I talked about this on his podcast a couple weeks ago. Like, I am all in if the Bills are able to get a player like Travis Etienne at the end of the first round. Double down on that offense, man. Like, this offense is the strength of this team. It is an offensive league. I'm so glad that this franchise has discovered that in the past couple seasons, because for so long it was just they were so happy with being the number 1 rushing offense and a top end defense. I am all in if they're able to grab somebody who is a game changer at running back or tight end. I don't know how that's, and I'm not a draft Nick. I'm not, I'm not outside of Travis Etienne, and Najee Harris. I don't have names for you. I don't have names.
No, it was more about position. I was more interested in position. So you answered the question, CB2. So like CB2 is very important. Edge rusher. My biggest concern is I think you can get. We got we got Tre'Davious White at 27. So I believe in whoever is scouting for the Bills as much as like all those guys I think got released. Like, isn't that the story? The next day after that draft, that first draft when we drafted Tre'Davious White, I still believe in the front office. I believe in the guys that they have, that they can find a talent at 30 at cornerback. Edge rusher, havoc wreaker, like a guy that's like JJ Watt, TJ Watt, like, Joey Bosa type, generally just doesn't come at 30. So it'll be interesting to see what happens, but I think they're going to be all in on defense. Record prediction for 2021, 17 games, record prediction.
Yeah, that's true. Okay, real quick, I want to say though, real quick before we move on to that record prediction, I have so much faith in this front office, and I'm a complete stan for everything with Brandon Beane. Dude, he could pick a kick returner at 30. He could pick a kicker at 30, and I'd be like, all right, sounds good, dude. I trust you. I whatever, because they've done more for this franchise in the past couple of years than anybody else has in the past, 20 plus. So whoever they pick, like, I'm not going to be sitting here like, throwing stuff against the wall because they picked whoever at 30 or traded down to 35, or I don't care. Guys, do your thing. Give me a winning team that I can cheer for in September through, the beginning of February. That'd be great.
Challenge
record prediction. Yeah, right. I'm gonna say they were 13-3 this past season, so let's do 14-3. That sounds
wow.
Fun. That sounds good. Why not?
14.
What have they done? What have they done to make me think otherwise? Let's just do what we did last year.
I saw today that they've got the 9th easiest schedule. I don't know how that's possible because I think the AFC East is one of the hardest divisions. Like the 9th easiest schedule. I'm like, they must be just going off of record of last year because the Jets are going to be better. I mean, they're not going to be as much of a dumpster fire as they were because Adam Gase was a joke. We all know that. Like, that's why we were all like, re-sign Adam Gase for the next 10 years. Like, keep that guy around because he was awful. Robert Saleh is a great coach, and they're obviously going to end up with that Zach kid from, I forget what college he's from. So you're going to end up with a new quarterback. Like, they're going to be a decent team. Miami is on the come up. I mean, they're coming up. They've got 2 first-round draft picks coming up. I mean, it's all going to rest on Tua, and there's no more Fitzpatrick to kind of like, obviously, save him. And then obviously Bill Belichick is building a football team, an offense that nobody's going to want to play. He's building a two giant athletic tight end offense team that no defense is going to want to play against, it's all going to come down to whether or not Cam can get him the football. So I don't think they got the 9th easiest schedule, but 14-3 might not be outside the realm of possibility. I mean, it's going to be a fun year. Ladies and gentlemen, you are listening to the Overreaction Sports Podcast. I'm your host, the voice of the Overreaction Podcast, Joe Miller. You can find me on Twitter at Joe Miller Wide. We're talking with Del Reed, the co-founder of Buffalo Bills. Is it Buffalo Fan Base, right? Bills Mafia, as well as 26 shirts. And we're going to open it up for questions. So if any of you, and this is the hard part, because now it's going to take a couple minutes, or a couple seconds for it to bleed in because there's like a delay, there's latency in this whole thing. If any of you have questions for Del, now would be the time to ask. So, or if you want a free t-shirt, now's the time to jump in and be like, hey, Del, I've got all the t-shirts, but this one. Runs. You guys like do limited runs, right? What's the next t-shirt you're bringing back?
The next one we're bringing back? I don't even know. Like, we always do comebacks kind of like at the last second. We don't really plan those too much. But every Monday, it's funny because, I was telling you earlier how my buddies told me that it'd be impossible to do a shirt every week. Now we're doing like one a week plus like special editions and comebacks and stuff like that. But I don't know. We have planned for any comebacks, but we got some really great designs that are queued up. It'll be I think people will like them. Yeah.
Awesome. First question comes in from Joshua Beer. Thank you so much for being a part of the show, Josh. Del Reed, would you take Zach Ertz to Buffalo with the Eagles' 37th pick for our 30th? So I guess what the trade is we get them our 30, we get their 37, and Zach Ertz.
Yeah, sounds good. Sounds great. He's a proven tight end. He's a pass threat. He automatically becomes the best tight end on the roster, and we just have to wait, the next day for that first draft pick. But I'd be totally down with that if they're able to pull it off. I don't know how they're going to with the salary cap and everything, but it's not for me to figure out. Sounds good.
Awesome. Steve Lynn, longtime listener to the show. Steve, welcome to the program. Is there an I'll play for candy shirt in the making?
I tweeted it. If we do anything that's based on players, typically we like to have their sign off on it. We like to have them be a part of it. Yeah. I tweeted at him like 3 or 4 times, like, "Yo, Isaiah, please follow me back. I'd like to ask you a question. And people were liking it and saying, hey, follow him back. But he never did. So
I
I don't know. Maybe someday, you know.
Jay Spence and Isaiah McKenzie are tight, so I can probably make that happen.
All right. So. Tell him to get a hold of me then. I'd love to do it.
I can probably make that happen. So Richard Rush, my guy,
all you know.
I need a Victory Monday shirt. That's on my to-do list. So I'm guessing that's an older shirt. Yes.
Yeah, that is one that'll be that is a comeback that we'll do. We did that a couple years ago when it didn't feel weird to sell a Victory Monday shirt. Now we're kind of cocky. We're like, yeah, they're going to win a lot. Let's sell it. So we did that a couple summers ago, and then again last summer, or actually last like fall, because I wasn't on the ball. So like we'll probably bring that back probably around July of this coming year.
That's super good. Super good. Is it Sundays for the Mafia or Mondays for the Mafia? Because I think we're in the world now where Mondays are for the Mafia.
You know, that'd be a good design. Like Monday nights are for the Mafia.
Dude, you're welcome. I'm just saying.
Yeah, I'll send you one if we do it.
Because we did
a primetime Mafia one, which is really popular. You know.
Yeah. Because Sunday the team plays, but Monday in Buffalo, Monday's our day. Like Monday is like for real, right? Allie says, would you rather have so I guess the setting up the board. So we're drafting at 30. There's a cornerback there, there's an edge rusher there. Both are starting caliber. So plug and play guys is kind of like the scenario that's being set up. So if you got a plug and play guy, cornerback or edge, which one you taking first at 30?
Oh man, that's tough. I don't know. I mean, for me, it's a toss up. I think that probably corner, because I think you see a lot more injuries in the defensive backfield overall. Maybe I'm just talking out of my backside here, but you know, if Levi Wallace goes down, who's behind him, right? You know, so sure, let's go. Well, I'll go with corner. That's fine. It's a coin flip for me, but.
It's probably the biggest need. The hard part is it's like one interacts with the other, and that's the hard part. And as much as I'm not an X's and O guy, you know, I know enough to be wrong a lot. There's a great deal of what's happening with the front four affects what's happening on the back end, and what's happening on the back end affects the front four. And then McDermott's scheme, you know, he wants the linebackers to run free, which they a lot of times haven't been doing. So it literally is a like chicken or the egg. I don't know. You know, I'm going to leave it to them. Clearly, this is a unique situation that we have not been in a very long time. I said that at the top of the show. Like, we're living in a world where even the draftniks that like are professionally paid to do mock drafts, none of them can agree on position, let alone player position that the Bills are taking, because it's literally that wide open. The Bills could go just about anywhere. I don't know what this means for Steve Lynn. How about Levi can get you by shirt? Settle in life.
Settle in life.
What is it? Do you know what that means?
No, I just think it doesn't. I mean, if he means like just settling, like, hey, he's good enough. Like, I feel like that's not. No disrespect. I don't think that's great T-shirt material. Like, hey, this guy's good enough. Let's do a shirt. Like, you know, I'm okay with this dude. You know?
I love every player on this football team except for Brian Winters, who's no longer on this football team. Other than him, Levi is he's great and he's fundamentally sound, but he's just he's a tackler of the pass catcher is what I kind of coined him about halfway through the season. It was on the Off Tackle with John Fena's show. I was like, Levi is the guy that lets the guy catch the ball in front of you. So catch it, and then I'm going to tackle you. And the funny part about it is the Bills were not sound great. Like, they were not a great tackling team in 2020. Levi was actually kind of exceptional. Like, he did a good job tackling guys in 2020. Thank God, because the guys in front of him were catching the football. So Josh Burke says, is there a Warriors movie themed Can You Digs It shirt?
No.
Seems like
we have a couple Diggs puns like in our back pocket, but nothing Warriors themed, I'm afraid.
This is Robbie. What's up, Robbie? Let's talk 716 Sports. Robbie, good to have you in here on the show tonight. Oops, I'm trying to jump over to Richard Rush. I agree. You need both coverage and pass rush. One goes with the other. Love to see Travis Regimen, game changer. I'm not super familiar, Rick, but thank you for being a part of the show. Steve says we definitely need a guy on defense who keeps coaches up at night like we have on offense. That's a big part. So outside of Tre'Davious White, there's nobody on this football team defensively that offensive coordinators are like, we got to stop that guy. That's the guy we got to stop. If we don't stop that guy, we're going to be in for a long day. They don't have it.
How many teams have that player on defense? I'm trying to think
it seems like every team has at least one. I bet if you went through the league, every team has at least one of them, and the Bills just kind of don't. Right? I mean,
Aside from Trey White,
Aside from Trey White.
but if you're talking about a pass rusher or defensive lineman,
But even Trey, I mean, I think we learned this year about Trey, as much as he's an asset and he is 100% Bills Mafia. He's a Bills Mafia for life, and he is bought in, and he's incredibly smart, and he does his studying. There's a reason that he went 27. And like where he lacks sometimes in athletic skill, he makes up for in his study, and he makes up for in knowing that they've talked about the fact that he studies more than everybody else does on that defense, just about, and it comes out. Trey is dominant if that front four is doing what it's supposed to be doing. And if it's not, it leaves him a little bit, right? It kind of puts him in a situation where he has to fight a little bit. So to be able to, right, we got to have somebody that's going to get in there and just wreak havoc, which is, like I said, what I always like to say. So Juck would fit that mold, in my opinion. This is the hybrid guy, Owusu. It'll be interesting to see. Mookie loves this kid. So I don't know how much you pay attention to Mookie or what Mookie talks about, but the weird part about it is my number one for me isn't linebacker. Like, linebacker is, I kind of like Matt Milano and I like Tremaine Edmonds. I'd like to kind of see, and the funny thing is, as much as AJ Klein, we beat him up last season early, he kind of fell into place. Like, they began to scheme better for him and he kind of found his fit. To me, linebacker is less of an issue, but this kid is supposed to be a generational player. And if he's there, then I think you just got to take him. So yeah. So Steve has a great point. Almost every playoff team has one. Trey is great. He just doesn't strike fear into quarterbacks. Won't target him. If you got the choice to throw the football at Tre'Davious White or Levi Wallace, you're throwing the ball at Levi Wallace. And we've seen that. They don't throw at Tre'Davious White by and large, but he's not a guy that's going to go out there and just like take over a football game, I guess is the best way to put that. Allie says, when the playbook blows onto the field, Trace, they're studying it. That was a wonderful.
I love it, dude. He's great. I love him.
He's a card, dude. Buffalo Archives now. What are each of your favorite ideas for the home opener, I guess? So I'll let you go first. I got to think, unless you got to think too. I'm good at pontificating. So if I need to pontificate for a moment, I can.
Well, for week one, not the home opener, but like for week one, I think, dude, I would love. We didn't get a crack at them, at him in the Super Bowl. I would love to take on Tampa week one, and they just set the tone for the entire season. Man, I wanted so badly for the Bills to play the Buccaneers, to play Tom Brady in the Super Bowl. I wanted that so badly. And so many people, I would tweet that, and so many people would say, "Oh no, like no, man, like I want to win this Super Bowl, and I want to win it with style. I want to win it with as much catharsis, whatever it is, cathartic, whatever catharsis as possible. I want to feel this, and so if I can't do that, then I would love to start off Tom Brady season 0-1. Thursday night football, kick off the season. Hey everybody, the Bills are here. Remember us? We almost went the Super Bowl last year. We're going to win it this year. We're going to start right now by beating the champion.
Well, you just said the point that I was going to make, and I'll jump on in a second. First, I'm going to backtrack. And I had Pat Moran on the show. I don't even know, about a month and a half ago. I was on Pat Moran's show week 1 or week 2 of the season, and Pat literally said, "Don't be surprised if the Buccaneers go to the Super Bowl, and not because of Tom Brady, but because of that defense." Like, Pat called it like week 1 or week 2. It was insane. To your point, wildest dreams land, bro. Like, literally, we've spent the last 20 years watching the Patriots get that first game of the season on Thursday Night Football, like, or whatever the teams were. Like, we're that team now. We're the team. Ratings are better. The NFL is better when the Buffalo Bills are good. And like, the reality is when the Bills are playing football on prime time, people watch. We are slated, right, for that Thursday night game, that Sunday night game, or that Monday night game week 1. I don't know which one we're going to get. We're playing the Chiefs this year. We're playing the Bucks this year. Like, we're playing, there's a lot of smash mouth, like crazy. These two teams could meet in the AFC Championship game, Super Bowl stuff kind of going on this year. Mm-hmm. It'll be interesting. I bet you I would bet $50 we're going to see the Chiefs, the Bucks, or the Patriots week 1. So that was a really long answer, but I think we're going to see the Bucks, the Chiefs, or the Patriots week 1. That's who I think it's going to be.
Yeah, Yeah, I'm not taking that bet because I think you're right. I think you're right. The Bills, Jim Rome said it. The NFL's a better place when the Bills are good,
Yep.
and they've proven that they have a very watchable team. They've proven to the NFL to the networks. This is a very watchable team. This is a fun offense to watch.
Yep.
They're gonna as many prime time opportunities as they had in 2020. They're gonna have that many, probably plus one, in 2021.
Which is going to suck for me because my show is a post-game show. And if I'm now live post-game, I'm going to be doing a lot of shows at 1 o'clock in the morning or 12 o'clock.
Bro, no lie. No lie, dude. I am team Sunday, 1 p.m. Like, as much as we're talking about how it's good. Dude, if I had it my way, every single game would be Sunday, 1 p.m. It's like, I just like that regularity, man. I like it. Like, all right, I can plan out my whole week. I've got however much time beforehand, afterward. But, with success, we all have to make sacrifices.
That's right. And sleep, when you're my age, sleep is apparently one of them. The best thing I can say is I know for a fact, beyond a shadow of a doubt, and just because I was on with Rico when the Bills beat the Ravens, I was putting my show notes together and I was getting ready to record. I recorded half of my show. And I took a break to read because I read tweets from the fans. So I like doing a whole overreaction. How you feeling, Bills Mafia, whatever. And then they send me tweets and I get 50 of them. It's crazy. I spend 25 minutes reading tweets from fans about how you felt after that football game. So I took a break. I was like, I just need a break, between the two. And I jumped over to YouTube. It was 1:30 in the morning, 1:15, 2,000 people were watching Rico from Fanatics on YouTube. And I got into the chat and I was like, because I was on Fanatics at the time, and Rico brought me on, dude. We were on until 2:30 in the morning, and 2,000 members of Bills Mafia were watching YouTube. It was crazy. So I know beyond a shadow of a doubt, Bills Mafia will be there for a post game show. But man, I just don't recover the way I used. I don't recover like I used to.
It's funny, dude. It's funny because Bree and Leslie and I, ever since almost 10 years ago now, almost exactly 10 years ago, the whole Bills Mafia thing kind of took off. And we always joked in the early days, can you imagine how big this would be if the team was good?
Right.
The team goes 4-12 in 2010. Basically that kind of sets the stage for everything that we did with Bills Mafia. And they ended up going I think 6-10 in 2011, which was the first full season with Bills Mafia. And we always joke, can you imagine how different things would be if the team was actually watchable or good.
Right.
And I'm not surprised you had 2,000 people. I'm surprised you only had 2,000 people with the reach that Fanatics has and everything. It's crazy. It's crazy.
Wildest dreams land, bro. Ladies and gentlemen, you have been watching and listening to the Overreaction Sports Podcast, brought to you by the Market Dominator on the Buffalo Rumblings Podcast Network. I'm your host, the voice of the Overreaction Sports Podcast. My name is Joe Miller. You can find me on Twitter at Joe Miller Wired. My guest tonight has been the one and the only, the awesome Del Reed, co-founder of Buffalo Fanbase and Bills Mafia and 26 Shirts. Del, do me a real quick favor and just tell everybody where they can find you on Twitter, social media, all that kind of stuff. Maybe can you hint us what the next shirt is? Did you tell us already? What's the next shirt?
I didn't, but it goes live in just under 2 hours now, right? So I'll say it's a Pac-Man shirt. It's about Pac-Man and football. So we'll go from there. But yeah, so I'm on Twitter at Del Reed, REID. Unlike Andre, I spelled the name correctly. I can make that joke. I've said it to his face. So at Del Reed and at 26 Shirts, 26shirts.com. Everywhere else, just you'll find it. If you look at those two things, you'll find me.
Awesome. And why did you change from Mr. Deadlier? Because I loved it. I loved the Mr. Deadlier.
Because everybody thought it was Mr. Deadliner or I don't know. It was people thought that was kind of weird. Nobody understood it. Nobody got the reference. Because it's actually an anagram of my name. Delmar Reed.
Right.
But
that's why I loved it.
It was. Yeah, so it's a funny story real quick. Do we have time? I'll tell you.
Story. Oh yeah, we can be here all night long.
So years ago, I went on Facebook and I found every single Del Reed on Facebook and I friended them. And most of them were like,
wait, I can't do that. I can't do that with Joe Miller because Joe Miller's the most common name that there is.
You'd be there all day. But it's funny because most of them were either jazz musicians or women. So I found I actually became semi-friendly with this one. She's a grandmother. She lives in England. Del Reed in England. Delith, I think is her first name. And whatever. So it's kind of, so I reminded all of them like, hey, what's up? I create a big group message on Facebook Messenger, like, hey, what's up, Dells? Like everyone's like, hey, what's up, Del? Whatever. I got a bigger kick out of it than anybody else. But so, anyways, so I've been thinking for years, like I wanted to change my Twitter handle from Mr. Deadly or to Del Reed. It was just easier to communicate or whatever.
Right.
And so I found out like it was always it was taken. Somebody already had it. Well, turned out it was the grandmother in England who had it, and she never tweeted. And so I never wanted to like give her a hard time or ask her for it. But I'm like, at one point, I think it was in like 2016, I messaged her on Facebook, and I was like, listen, you haven't used this account like in 4 or 5 years. Like, would you be willing like to? Can I take it? And she was like, yeah, no problem, absolutely. So I sent her some shirts. I
Nice.
like to England. I sent her some Bill shirts. She has absolutely no idea. I'm sure what the references are or whatever. Who cares? But she gave it to me, and so I switched everything over. It was like in I think it was like 2015, 16, something like that. But it's not. I guess it's not a great story, but that's my story. That's why. So I was able to finally get it because some grandmother in England.
Rockabye Beasley. What does that mean?
Right.
Why is it so blurry? Why can't I see this picture?
I think I sent her a Hughesomania shirt, which is like a Hulkamania shirt we did with Jerry Hughes. I was like, Hughesomania. She's probably like,
should have sent her all 2 X's. That way they're nighties for her. She can wear them when she sleeps at night.
There you go.
Ladies and gentlemen, this has been the Overreaction Sports Podcast with Joe Miller and my special guest, Del Reed. Whatever platform you're listening to, like and please subscribe, especially if you're on YouTube. But with that, we're going to cut you guys loose. We thank everybody that's been in the comment section, the chat. We thank all of you that are listening after the fact. This is going to drop on the Buffalo Rumblings Podcast Network on Monday. With that, I don't have anything further. Del, just give me a go Bills, brother.
Go Bills.
Go Bills. We'll touch